Good evening, and I welcome you to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. Your host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr. We are in a new month, the month of March. Others have described it as a month that gave birth to the independence of Ghana, or to Ghana, and obviously that is it. 2 days from now, we are going to celebrate the 67th independence of Ghana. And so it is just prudent for me to use this moment to wish all of us a happy independence in advance. And to everyone who is watching or doing the listening, particularly individuals like Mabel Otumi, who I know she is doing the watching from Teshi, and all numerous viewers that we have. Tomorrow we will be having a program, and in course of this program we are going to discuss it. That is Crusaders Against Corruption will be having a public forum tomorrow, and so we'll have a brief on it and to tell you what you need to do to partake in it. So we'll have a thorough conversation on this in course of the program. Today our topic is going to be another interesting one, and it is interesting because it fits clearly into this month being a month of independence. We are looking at a very interesting topic that has to do with moving Ghana from a partisan vision to a national vision. We've been talking about this so many times over the past years, right from Gurgisberg's time we've been talking about it, but it looks like we are almost always talking about national vision, and yet we end up practicing partisan vision. And that is one key reason why Ghana seems to be stagnant and we are not moving the way we ought to move. As always, you have the opportunity to get interactive with us using our social media platform. The number on the screen, 055-699-9999. And all other social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube. Send in your messages and it will be shared with all of us here. Well, so we're going straight to the topic. We are looking at moving Ghana from a partisan vision to a national vision. The first thing we need to appreciate is what vision is and the importance of it. Now, if you look at the Bible, it tells us that without a vision, the people will surely perish. And that is a fact. The others that have come up with words talking about the importance of vision of dreams. Mark says that you need a dream if you are going to succeed in anything you do. Then Helen also says that the most pathetic person in the world is someone who has sight but has no vision. When you move on, you look at, aside this, you look at governance and democracy in Ghana. One of the challenges that confronts multi-party democracy is the contention between political party ideologies and national aspirations in certain long-term national development agenda. Now, this is especially so when considering, for instance, the strength of a party manifesto against national development vision. And that has been the challenge over the past years. If you look at Ghana's history, the first plan that we can comfortably talk of is the one that took place in 1919, which popularly we were referring to it as the Gurgisberg Development Plan of 1919. We came up with that plan. The intention was for us to move from a partisan vision to a national vision. It didn't work that much. Then came Nkrumah's 7-year development plan. Again, we also looked at it. If you have the opportunity of looking particularly at the content of this 7-year development plan, you realize that most, if not all, most of the things that were said years back, they are still relevant. Unfortunately, it becomes difficult for us to look at it. Then came Vision 2020. This one actually took place under Rawlings's regime. In 1995, we developed Vision 2020, and that's some years back, about 4 years ago. This vision was actually truncated at a point, so we couldn't even pursue it to its latter. Then also we had under Kufuor what we call the Ghana Poverty Reduction Strategy 1 and 2. It was also aimed at us moving from a partisan vision to a national vision. Unfortunately, it also truncated at a point. Still under Kufuor, we had what we call the 2057 development framework, which was popularly described by the late Kwejo Banredu, our finance minister, former finance minister, as vision, vision for Ghana, or Ghana's vision for the next 50 years. Unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people have not even heard of this development framework. It tells us clearly that we are comfortable in moving into a partisan vision than a national vision. We have, again, what we call the 40-year national vision. And this was actually developed by the NDPC, that is the National Development Planning Commission, which after a change of government, unfortunately, we haven't heard much about this national vision. And as I keep saying, it is just because that is how it has always been. The reality is that, look, it is estimated that by the year 2035, Ghana's population will be 48 million. Currently, we are around 32 or so, 31, 32 million. By 2035, we are going to move to 48 million. And so it is just wise, and it is expected that we will have some plan in place to take care of not just now, but to accommodate the 48 million population that we are going to estimate, or we are expecting. Unfortunately, over these past years, all we see is still what we are practicing now. We are exporting raw materials and we are producing primary produce without adding value to any of our exports or most of our exports. We are still exporting raw cocoa beans from Ghana instead of even processing more of those beans into value-added products. That's the reality. We are still exporting unrefined gold from this country. Now, if you look at all those things and you have studied the Guggisberg plan, you will see that that was what the plan entailed. 1919. These were the things that were seen in the Guggisberg plan. From 1919 all the way to now, 2 days from now, we are celebrating 67 years of independence. We are in 2024, and we are still practicing the Guggisberg plan. I think it tells us clearly that there's something wrong with us. We moved into this democratic dispensation, and we came up with a strong institution known as the NDPC. The NDPC was constitutionally mandated to advise the president on development planning policies. It was supposed to develop, national plan, which will be used as an official document containing the vision for the growth and development of a nation, Ghana, and the policies for attaining those visions. Now, the plan's objective must be quantifiable, measurable, and attainable. And per the NDPC's document or expectation, the average time horizon for an effective development plan is between 5 and 20 years. And that is why the last, commission, that's the NDPC, they came up with the 40-year vision, expecting that we'll be able to, it will be able to carry us on from the time they developed it to the next 40 years. Unfortunately, it didn't happen so. Now, one of the main challenges with the NDPC has to do with legal backing. And so even though it is there, the preparation of the development plan does not have legal basis to ensure that the content will be binding on current and future governments. And that is why a government comes today, the next moment, another government comes and decides that he or she is not going to use what was contained in the previous development plan. Unfortunately, the NDPC, as I indicated, does not have legal backing to make the content of its development plan binding. And this leads to loss of public time, money, and other resources that are invested in its preparation. Because the NDPC, they actually work using your tax money, they use my taxes. And so at the end of the day, whatever inputs they put in, time, resources, human resource, monetary resource, whatever it is, at the end of the day, if a new government comes and says that I'm not going to use the contents of the plan or what they have developed, you see, it is not the members of the previous NDPC that is going to lose, but it is you and I, because it is just an indication that our taxes have gone to waste. And so that is why it is important we look at it. Now, from the Constitutional Review Commission's report, which we have discussed here in one of our previous episodes, they came up with some recommendations. The first one was that NDPC must be independent, inclusive in composition. Now, the other thing was that there should be a review of the composition of the NDPC to include the following: civil society organizations, all political parties that have attained at least 5% votes in national elections, University Teachers Association of Ghana, private university, technical university, trades union congress, 2 representatives from National House of Chiefs, the Director General of the NDPC. There's other recommendation. If we can go to the next slide, we can look at it. They also talked about, still with the composition, we should have, some reps coming from the private sector, the minister responsible for finance, the Governor Bank of Ghana, Statistician General, 1 regional planning officer from each region. Now we have 16 regions, and then such other persons not exceeding 5 as may be appointed by the president. So these were the recommendations that came from the Constitutional Review Commission's report, talking about how we should go about it. The various bodies will nominate their reps. That is the bodies that were mentioned earlier. The tenure of the members shall be 7 years, non-renewable. They are supposed to formulate a long-term national development plan, taking into consideration the resource potential and comparative advantage of the different districts of Ghana for approval by Parliament. They are supposed to monitor. In fact, before the monitoring, this recommendation is something that I really like or I support. They are supposed to revise the National Development Plan every 10 years or such earlier period as may be approved by Parliament by 2/3 majority of all members of Parliament. They are also supposed to monitor, evaluate, and coordinate development policies, programs, and projects, and submit an annual report to Parliament. So in other words, they are supposed to also serve as a check on our politicians. It should be a non-partisan long-term national development framework or vision, which will serve as a yardstick by which programs and manifestos of political parties will be measured. And so all political parties, if indeed we have an effective national development framework, all political parties are supposed to tap into it and develop their manifestos from it. Manifestos and partisan vision will come closer and closer to each other. And the differences may just be in the pace at which one government wants to develop, how efficiently a government in power wants to apply resources, the capacity to mobilize additional human and material resources. And then the other benefit is that it is going to have a national vision which will carry the development vision of the entire nation, other than political manifestos. And so when we have this, it is also going to help us do away with what we call the winner takes all. It will do away with it, where I am treated as a Ghanaian who is competent and not a Ghanaian who holds a political card that is in power. So a national development plan will help us to achieve this. And that is why it is very important that we are having this conversation this evening on national development, moving away from a national development, from a partisan development or partisan vision to a national vision. And so, as always, today we are going to have a conversation around it, and we are going to solicit your views, your comments, your questions. We want to see if we are to build a national vision today, what will you want to see in Ghana's national vision as a citizen of Ghana? Send in your comments, send in your questions, send in your inquiries, and it will be dealt with here. Send it to us through the WhatsApp line as we have it on the screen, 055 699-9999. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to introduce to you our August guest, or important guest that we have this evening to help us, have a conversation on this topic. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure. Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit AutoChecks at Koforidua Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. AutoChecks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority. Check, AutoChecks.
Welcome back to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. This evening, we are privileged to have with us a very renowned woman who is, a patriotic citizen of this country. She has a lot of backgrounds, and I wouldn't want to bore you with all that she has. But just to let you know that we are privileged this evening to host the chairperson for Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana, Bishop Dr. Susan Inti. I call her Madam Chair because she's my chair. Madam Chair, welcome to Politics and Beyond.
Thank you so much for having me, Chief Crusader.
It's such a privilege to have you, and we are so happy. Madam Chair, we've been talking about national vision. And if you look at what we presented earlier, or I presented earlier, it is clear that almost all leaders that we've had, they believe that we should have a national vision.
Yes.
Someone will want to ask, what exactly is national vision? What are we talking about?
Right. So to have a national vision means that you need to have a vivid, clear image of what you want to see in the future. It has to be very clear, and it has to be not confusing for people, must be transparent, something that everybody can see and move with. The Bible says in Habakkuk 2:4,
right.
And let me just try and see if I can quickly get up that scripture. It just says you need to write down the vision and make it plain. The same way that the country has a constitution. We all know what the constitution is, or we all should know what the constitution is and what the articles provide.
Yeah.
All the rights, all the policies that the government is supposed to abide by, the laws regarding all the legislature, executive, and the judicature. So just like we have a constitution, we need to have a national vision, a clear picture. There's a scripture that says, if the eye is good, then the body is good.
That's good. Yeah.
So if you lack vision, the Bible says, if my people perish for a lack of a vision. It's like looking at a building and there was no plan. We tell children and we tell students that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's true.
And preparation is 50% success. So
That's
if
right.
you prepare for something, then the likelihood of you being successful is 50% of it. So if you haven't got a plan and everybody is just doing what they feel is right at that particular time. There's no cohesive sense of a shared purpose or, you know, social cohesion. We're moving in one direction. You know, we can all see where the economic progress is coming from, the political progress. Everybody is just coming and doing what seems right in his own eyes. You know, in the days of the judges in the Old Testament, the Bible talks a lot about everybody was doing what was right in their own eyes. So you don't have a plan. You come with a short-term plan.
That's right.
And then somebody takes over, and instead of continuing with the development plan, they just come and change the whole direction, waste the resources that have already been put into a particular strategy or plan, and it just gets us nowhere. We're moving in circles, and that chain has to break. I remember when I was parish councillor in the UK for one of the wards in a particular city. And when the Labour Party was standing for elections, we were told that even if we became a councillor, the strategy and the plan for that particular local authority had been set for the next 20 years.
Wow.
So even though you become a councillor, there's not very much you can do, because there's a trajectory and a destination and a vision that they had, and you just have to fall in line and follow the vision. So having a national vision is, you know, it's key. Otherwise, everything, you know, any destination is possible.
Madam Chair, sorry, viewers, sorry, I'm struggling a little, but I understand perfectly. And I'm happy you have given us this background. Everyone believes in what you have just said. Everyone, trust me, everyone. As you indicated, even from Gurgisbek's time, we all know that this is the right thing to be done. What makes it so difficult that over the past years, we've not been able to have a clear national vision, stick to it, not just stick to it, write it, just like you indicated. So that on the street, even if I meet a child who is in the primary school and I ask him, where is Ghana heading towards? The person should be bold to tell me that this, in the next 5-10 years, this is where we are going as a country. Why is it that it has become very difficult over these past years for us to have a simple national vision?
Right, okay, so at the moment, because of the political, we have a democracy, and in our democracy, we have two main parties.
Right.
Now, based on that system that we have with these two main political parties, we have what is called a partisan vision. Narrow political interests, because obviously the term is for 4 years, so it's a very limited amount of time. Just when you get your feet under the table, they have to start campaigning for the next election. So it takes maybe about 2 years to get your feet under the table to understand even what the job is before you can start doing something about it. And then all of a sudden you have to go into campaigning again. So narrow political interests and political gridlock, because half the country are not with you. So in terms of getting buy-in from the intellectuals in the country, the people with capacity in the country, you only have half of the country really working for you, because the other half is in opposition. And I just found what one of our David Ofosu-Dote sent out on Twitter today. The biggest challenge with Africa is not the enormity of our problems. It is the enormity of our wrong mindsets, which prevents us from thinking together and acting collectively about our common problems. A divided society is the enemy's perfect weapon to dominate others. Divide and rule. And, you know, sadly, that is what's happening. Divide and rule, or divide and conquer. So we have half the country working for progress or for the party agenda.
Right.
And the other half trying to see how they can plan so that they can get power, so that they can implement their own political interests. And so this is the contention that we have with the partisan vision. We have limited cooperation. Okay. And it means that all the people who are outside the country, who are doing great things, leaders, CEOs, investment bankers, etc., who are outside the country might be in opposition. Yeah. And they might be the right people for the key jobs, but because of their alignment, they are not part of the system, or they are not allowed to enter, you know, the system because of party politics.
You have really summarized almost all the things. It has to do with partisan politics that we've been practicing over the past years. And that has really been the problem. How do you think we can migrate or move away from this partisanship? Because it looks like structural-wise, everything we are doing, the focus is winning the next election.
Yes.
So, I mean,
building up our war chest.
Exactly.
Because we need the money to campaign.
To campaign.
And
so that it has always about...
It's about the contracts.
That's right.
It's about getting the contracts so that I can get my 30 or 40%
cuts.
Put it into the war chest. Then if, you know, so it's about giving the contracts and then being paid for giving the contracts.
That's right. That's right.
It's pathetic.
So, someone mentioned, I think it was on this platform, where we're looking at the population. We have about 31 million or so population. The truth is, you can't have more than 2 million of this population being in office at a time.
Yes, yes.
So it means those that are in office are way, way, way less than the majority who are not in office.
Yes.
How do we get those in office to ensure that we are moving away from a partisan focus to a national focus that will have the interest of the majority of citizens, you know, included in that heart?
We need to look at an inclusive kind of governance. An inclusive kind of governance that gives voice to different parts of our society, whether it is regional, whether it is districts or through the assemblies, or we have to look at getting representation and including people from all walks of life in the process.
Chair, the issue of getting people, including them in the process, making sure that they are part, either election, appointments, whatever, bringing them on board. This is a case where we have, you know, throughout the whole structure from the executive all the way to the local level, we have, you know, created a sharp partisan division, such that even if I want to be an assemblyman or a woman, I must find a way of subtly associating myself to the colors of a political party before I am able to win. And so at the end of the day, we are talking about national vision. But in getting a national vision, it is those those in power who are going to lead us to get a national vision. And these are the same people who have decided that national vision will not help them win the next election, so they are going to limit it to a partisan vision. Has this issue of we resulting to just call partisan individuals leading us, going to the polls and voting on strong partisan lines, has it helped us over these past years, in line with us making sure that we have a national vision?
No, of course not. So, I mean, it has not. So we have to look at other alternatives.
Exactly. That's the point.
Be a catalyst for change, to change the mindset, to change the culture, that we need to show people that there are alternatives to push the agenda for change in Ghana, to push the agenda. You know, I know that there are some other political organizations.
Right.
I mean, I'll just give you an example of one, because it's the Ghana First Coalition, for example. It's not a political party. It's a civil society organization which brings together people who are politically motivated but do not agree with this partisan vision, and want to have a national vision, because they believe that the country, the citizens of the country should come first. The best interests of the nation, you know, uniting diverse interests, fostering collective progress, a shared sense of purpose, you know. So there are different organizations that are trying to encourage people who have political, I don't like to use the word ambition, but it's ambition, because you want to see a national vision. You want to push a national agenda rather than a party political agenda. So there are different NGOs that want to do that. They want to support people who are visionary, who want to take the country to the next level in terms of a united sense of purpose, building, you know, us together as a nation, politically, economically, socially, culturally, rather than having this political situation or system that divides, sometimes on tribal grounds, etc. That is not the Ghana that we want to see.
I'm happy you've mentioned Ghana First Coalition. I know of other movements that are also in place, and the intention is to encourage citizens to move away from the core partisan structures that we have, with the intention of coming up with an alternative, so that, you know, this alternative will help build structures such as the national vision we are talking about today. In the wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, there are some institutions that have been put in place to help us with civic education, to help us to appreciate and understand the importance of a national vision, patriotism, and all that. And one key of such is the NCCE. How will you assess Ghana's NCCE?
Well, obviously, it hasn't been able to achieve its objectives because it is subject to control, and it's advisory. I believe it's advisory.
It is.
Which means that it doesn't have to be, it hasn't got any legal backing, and it's advisory. So it's just kind of like sharing its views, but cannot enforce them or implement them.
We look at the state of Ghana. We are still in the Georgesburg era. Raw materials are being exported. We are importing almost everything. We've become just a country that consumes without, you know, producing much. If we are to talk of national vision, what should be, looking at the current state of Ghana and the future, or the kind of Ghana we all envisage or we want, what will you propose, or what do you think should be the content that should be looked at when we are developing a national vision for this country?
Right. I sent you a
you
image.
Did.
I don't know whether we can.
So we can have the image, the structure, actually the structure of the national NDPC. We should have it on the screen any moment from now. I think so. Then we can go through it. That's
all
it, right?
So this is a drawing that came from the Africa Center for Economic Transformation. They've got what they call the Ghana Compact, and it looks at how we can move Ghana into a national vision and creating the kind of Ghana that we all want to live in for the next 50 years.
Right.
And, you know, I was looking at their executive summary and their article that they have on their website. It's on the Ghana Compact website.
Okay.
And talking about how to create a national development plan that is integrated within the political system or the governing system. And if you look at it, you've got the president's vision or party manifesto.
Yeah.
And then we look at the pertaining development situation and look at the national long-term development perspective, Ghana at 100. And all those come together to become a coordinated program of economic and social development policies. We've got the Sustainable Development Goals and the AU Agenda, which feeds into the coordinated program. And then we've got the Ghana Beyond Aid COVID-19 response feeding into that. And all of that, not just the party political manifesto, but the development plan, the current situation, feed into the coordinated program of economic and social development policies, which feeds into the national midterm policy framework.
Okay.
So it's a concerted effort between the National Development Planning Commission and the governing political party, whoever that might be.
Right.
And we get the national midterm policy framework, and then we look at the development plans, guidelines, and move into the national midterm development plan, integrated sector plan, integrated regional medium-term development plan, which works with the public investment program, medium-term fiscal framework, annual development priorities into the national budget, which at the moment doesn't, the development plan has nothing to do with the national budget. The approval, the implementation, the monitoring, evaluation, and the reporting. And then it goes into the next year's annual development priorities. So really, if we are looking at what we need to be looking at, and this, I've just put this on for viewers to see that there is a way forward. But it is the political will, the government will, the leadership will, to move forward. It takes a will. And we can do it. But whatever is hindering us, whatever is limiting us, we need to deal with those elements in prayer, but also in a way that we can help our nation move forward. Because otherwise, next year by this time, 2 years by this time, 10 years by this time, we will still be in the situation that we are in, going round in circles. And we need to break that cycle. But to break that cycle, we need leadership that is competent enough, skilled enough, to make the decisions that need to be made, to make the changes that need to be made. Like you said, we are still doing agriculture. We are still trying to get our, I was listening to a clip from the VP of Assets a couple of days ago, and she was sharing where we stand economically in terms of inflation, debt, etc., etc. We need change. Ghana needs change. We cannot be doing the same thing,
over and over, expecting a different result.
Yes.
It doesn't
if we
make
want
sense.
something different, we need to do something different. We cannot be sitting there, pretending that, we are we want a change and we are change makers and we are making a difference. No, we are not. We are moving in circles. To make a change, you need to do something decisive. It needs to be intentional.
That's right.
You need to, and the only thing we have in this country is our thumb.
Sad to say, but that is it. It is not supposed to be so. That shouldn't be the only thing for us.
But that is it. And if you cannot be bought, it is your thumb. And I think, this time Ghanaians have to think, do we want to be in this same position that we are in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? And if we don't want to be in the same position, then do something different.
That's right. I agree. Can we go back to the slide? There's one thing that got my attention. Madam Chair, if you look at the national long-term development perspective, Ghana at 100, are we talking about developing a plan or a vision that will take us into the next 100 years?
I think we're at 67 at the moment.
We are 67. Okay, so then we are looking at
talking at the next 33 years.
33 years.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, between now and the next 33 years, in fact, we should even have 40 or 50 years development plan by now, you know. So 30 years or 35 or 30 so years, it is okay. There's one striking thing after going through all this. You raised it, and that has to do with leadership.
Yes.
What kind of leader do we need?
We need a visionary leader. We need a leader whose eye is good for the nation. There are a lot of voices, a lot of significant voices, and we need to be a nation that doesn't sell our votes to the highest bidder. You know, we need to be a nation that votes on values, that votes on principles, and I don't know whether that's possible.
How do you identify these leaders?
Visionary leaders.
Yes. How do you identify them?
You know, as they say, 72% of Ghanaians are Christians. And I think we need to be prayerful Christians and really seek God to find out who does he want for this nation.
Right.
We don't want somebody who gives us rhetoric. We don't want somebody who comes and gives us failed promises.
Right.
We want somebody who speaks truth, who will tell us the hard realities, the truth, and work with everybody in this nation, not just half of the nation. You know, there was a saying that if only men were ministers, then only half, you know, of the kingdom of God will be working.
Okay.
Because women were not at some point allowed to work. So if you only want 50% to work, then you will get a 50% result.
Very true.
But if you want 100% of the population of Ghana to be behind a vision, then it has to be a vision for Ghana that we can all buy into, that we can all feel a part of, that includes all of us. And that will take some change.
I know your passion when it comes to corruption fights.
Yes.
I want to know from you, how does a national vision help us in fighting corruption? Because it is one of the cankers. It is the main thing affecting our development as far as, you know, Ghana's process or progress is concerned. And probably it is because we have always been limiting ourselves to partisan vision. And that is why corruption seems to abound. If we are now talking about moving from a partisan vision to a national vision, how does it help us to reduce, if not eradicate, corruption?
Right. So if you want a national vision, that means you are looking out for the interests of the citizens, of the people that you are governing.
Yeah.
Every citizen matters. Every child matters. Every person matters. In the village, in the town, we don't just drive through the villages that don't have water, drive through the villages that don't have electricity, drive through the villages and towns and just people waving white hankies, etc. We are engaging the citizens. But you need to be that kind of leader, not one who just comes and makes empty promises and just talks rhetoric.
Right.
We want people who have values, who have character. This is leadership. We are talking about values. Who do we want as a leader? We want somebody who is of good character. They don't come and lie, get voted in, and then they forget what they promised. We don't want a liar. We don't want somebody who doesn't have values. We want somebody who respects, who has character. And if we look at Singapore, they built their nation in 25 years on meritocracy, not putting my family member in because it's my family member. But because the person is competent, they've been vetted, and they can do the job. It's not that I just want to give somebody a pay packet at the end of the month. Meritocracy, we need that, so that it's not friends and family.
That's right.
We want pragmatism. You know, if it means that we have to wear Ghana fabric, wear Ghana shoes, reduce our imports because it uses all our foreign exchange, etc. Have trade barriers, quotas, so that we can protect our markets, so that we can grow our light manufacturing, we can grow our industries, we can grow our agribusiness without flooding the markets with chicken and rice from outside. We can support our own grown crops. That is pragmatism. We are thinking today about what will benefit us tomorrow. It'll take some sacrifice. And then the last thing, and the most important thing, was integrity.
Integrity, yeah.
Integrity. But if we at the top are not prepared to call a spade and call someone out for doing the wrong thing, then, you know, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. So I think that's my answer to the question. And I think even a dead horse with one eye would know that this is the way forward. Whether we can do it is another matter.
It's another matter. That's the question. Whether we can do it is another matter. Indeed, these are the traits needed. Remember, we've told you that this year we are helping all of us to have the needed information in making the right decisions, because 7th December is just around the corner. And these are some of the things you need. Now we are talking about the kind of leader we need to help us develop a national vision, because that's what we need. And Bishop Dr. Susan has given us, into details, the kind of leader we need and how to even identify them. We are going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll go through the number of messages that we have received, and then we'll also continue with the conversation. Just stay tuned.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural. For bulk purchase, call 0596 273 546 or 0596 273 547. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back. So let's quickly go through some of the messages that has come. This one says, "Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I want to commend Madam and your good self for the good work you are doing." And this one says, Omar from Kumasi. This one says, "Good evening, Mr. Host. Very fantastic points from your guest. I think National Vision will not support their corrupt nature, and that's why they are slacking in the tangent." This from Kofi from Kaswa. "My name is Yakubu. I want to see a national vision that will get 40% of the youth to go into agriculture in the next 5 years." All right. Have we had any past leader with a vision nationally, compelling enough to carry all along? Does past visions capture where we are coming from, where we are going? Where we are, and hence where we are going. This is from Edward Menu. Okay, I'm sure our guests will answer these questions for you. This one says, "Good evening, senior. Most of our leaders lack realistic ideas because the first thing that comes to mind is their political party instead of the nation. Example is, okay, Dr. Bawumia, okay. Now, Dr. Bawumia as a vice president now saying that his biggest achievement is becoming the presidential candidate for MPP. How can such a person think about the future of the country? We need leaders like Dr. Spew, who brought Get Fund into existence to help move this country. Having him as a running mate, okay, will be a plus for a national vision. Oh, okay. Amfuseini Mohammed from Western North, Sefi. This one says, are we not putting new wine in old wineskin over and again? It is 136 years of colonialism, Gold Coast old skin mindset, still bedeviling us. This is Mr. Menu from Kumasi. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. You guys are really doing a great job. I'm enjoying your guests so much. Ghana needs people like her to rescue Ghana.
Rescue.
This is Omar from KNUST. It is high time for Ghanaians to stand up and fight against the current MPP government education policy in Ghana. How can the education minister intend to use 68 million to photocopy WASI past questions for 2024 as a SHS final year students, when almost all basic schools in Ghana are without textbooks, infrastructure, and furniture? What is wrong with this NPP government? Mohammed Abubakar Sadiq Tamali. Madam Chair, this issue of Ghana Education Service using 68 million to photocopy WASI past questions, have you heard it?
No, it's something new.
All right. So, that is what came up today, and it is quite unfortunate. There's this question I want to get your thoughts on. It says, have we had any past leader with a vision nationally compelling enough to carry all along? Does past visions capture where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going? In other words, the past visions that we've had, the tester wants to find out whether it has been compelling enough. Isn't it possible that we've not had compelling visions? That is the reason why we've not been able to develop a national vision.
Okay. I thought that Guggisberg's vision development plan was superb for where we were in 1919.
Yeah.
And it took us through to the 1950s before Nkrumah came with his development plan. And as a leader, and looking back in history, Nkrumah had a plan. And the plan was a regional plan where different regions would host factories and industries that would help regenerate the area and boost the economies in those areas, creating employment, etc. So yes, we have had leaders who have a national vision, but he was terminated, obviously, because of his forward thinking. Now, a national vision, if we looked at what the diagram that we put on the screen earlier, it talked about taking where we are now, looking at where we are now, doing an assessment, and then seeing where we want to be in 50 years, etc., with our employment, our workforce plan, our strategic plan in terms of the different areas, development, etc. We need to set the plan, the vision. What is the vision? Where are we now? And then we look at the steps, the phases. How are we going to get to where we need to get to? It's like in education. You come into a university with very little knowledge about that particular course that you are going to do. And there's a scheme of work. You go into the university, you go through the scheme of work, step by step, little by little approach, and you get to the end. But if at every stage of your university course or your SHS course or whatever, somebody comes in to jumpstart a new course or a new curricula, it frustrates the process.
Right.
So we need a process that is allowed to, to run. And it takes time to run so that we can, and with a national plan or a national vision, if we all have the national vision, everybody can go according to the vision. And before a political party comes into power, they will sign a charter or an agreement that they are going to continue with the development plan. Otherwise, we don't vote them in. If you are not going to continue with this plan, we don't even vote you in. And if you can't sign up to it, we are not interested. If you can't sign up to it, first of all, it means you are not prepared to do it.
Right.
You are not prepared to follow it. And once you sign it, you sign your resignation. That if you don't follow it, it is automatic resignation. You are out. In Rwanda, they have performance management for the ministers. They have their appraisals. If the minister is not performing according to the development program, they are out. So it is not whether you are a friend of this or a friend of that or whatever. No, we have a plan, and it is a national plan, and it's for the citizens of Ghana.
That's right.
It is for each one of us, and we all have to be part of it, and we all have to make sure that it is done. And if we sit by the sides and we fold our arms and we get a few Esau's bowl of soup to keep quiet, we are bribed with a bowl of soup, small bowl. Instead of giving a man a fish, teach him how to fish.
Teach him how to fish.
Let's build our nation. Let's build the capacity of the people in our nation.
That's right. Very important. There are a number of messages coming in, but there are these two, since our time is almost exhausted. This from Mama Vida from Ashanti region. He says, we are tired. We need to move away from partisan vision to national vision. We need to move this government out into another party. I'm single mother. I don't have anything to support my children. They are completing tertiary education, but no work. Okay, this one is from Efo Kwame Atrako of Pando, Jigbe. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Please, your guest is making positive impact in the discussion. And may I suggest that the NCC is adequately resourced to enable enable them do their jobs effectively. Is it possible your guest can is it possible your guest can run for presidency? Madam Chair, you want to take my Madam Chair from me, huh? Madam Chair, so that is a question for you. Is it possible we can let you run for presidency?
It's going to be a tall order. It has to come from heaven. It has to come from heaven.
All right. So before we wrap up, there's going to be a program tomorrow, as I indicated earlier. And we are going to have it on the screen, and I'm going to let our chairperson speak a bit to it. And then it has to do with tomorrow's, in preparation for our 67th independence anniversary. Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana is hosting or having a public lectures or public forum. Madam Chair, you want to say a bit about this? Program? Yeah,
it's our 67th independence, and that's such an important date. I mean, it's like being 67 years and you don't have too much to show for it. So we need to do something. Independence anniversary, rescue or disaster. So we've got a lot of main speakers. General Nunu Mensah will be there, Mr. Daniel Domelovo, via Zoom. Bishop Dr. Samuel Mensah, Madam Rodaline Ayana, Dr. Echoes Fiogabra will be there, and myself. This is tomorrow at the Nat Teachers Hall in Adabraka, 2 p.m. So if I were you, I would start heading there at 1:30 so that you can get a good seat in the front and you can participate in these lectures. It'll be an eye-opener.
Very true. And Nana Kwabena Nketia is going to be the chairperson. Nana Kwabena Nketia the fifth will be the chairperson. I will be there myself as the moderator. It is a public forum. Come and let's discuss our independence, whether it's a rescue or it's a disaster. Josephine says that, good evening, host and madam. I'm really enthused with your guest ideas. She is fantastic. Josephine from Accra. Josephine, thank you very much. Let me also put on record that since we started Politics and Beyond, this is the first time we are hosting a woman.
That is terrible. I mean, that is an indictment. Chief Crusader Chair.
Madam Chair,
this is an indictment to the female species.
That is the reason why we brought you to come and open the door.
Well, I thank you. And thank you for all your messages. Very encouraging. You know, I might just come back again.
You'll surely have to come back again. And so, viewers, this is where time will allow us. And I am very sure, I need not say, it is obvious that we've really learned a lot this evening. And not just learned, we have also been provoked into thinking about the nation, having a national vision. That is the way for us to go. We can't do otherwise. And so this coming Wednesday, on this same platform, XYZ, at 11 a.m., this episode is going to be repeated. And so stay tuned and listen to it again. Tell your colleagues who couldn't make it to also listen to it. Let's look at the importance of having a national vision. And as we just said, tomorrow, God willing, we are going to have a preparation towards our 6th March independence. And that will be taking place at the Adabraka Nat Hall at 2 p.m. We are going to discuss our 67th independence. You just can't miss it. It's at 2 p.m. So we meet again next week, Monday, same time, 8 p.m. I want to say on behalf of all of us, Madam Chair, thank you so much for making time and for teaching us and taking us through this important topic. Thank you so much. We hope to see you very soon. Very, very, very soon. Viewers, this is where time will allow us. I'm still your host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr. So we meet again next week. It is good night from us.